Welcome to the Secret Traditions podcast, where ancient wisdom meets modern minds.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive into the Book of the Order of Knighthood.
Ramon Llull's masterpiece.
It is, yeah.
We're really getting into the meat of it now.
I think so. We are.
This book is really Llull's vision for
Like his ideal knight.
the perfect knight.
Yes, his blueprint for
You be a knight.
a guidebook to knighthood.
Totally. And today we're going to be looking at chapters 12 and 13.
Excellent chapters.
Oh, man. So good. And I feel like,
This is where he really gets into
yeah, what it means.
what it means to be a knight.
Not just like,
Not just the skills, not just
swing a sword around.
the tools of the trade, but
You look good. You've got the armor, but
the
you
actual,
really,
the ethos.
yeah. Are you really embodying,
The heart of knighthood.
yes, the ethical code, the core of what it
Real master
means
of it.
to be a knight? Really provide a deep dive into the duties of a knight and that ethical code.
Yeah. And that ethical code is so important because it's like the foundation of the whole thing.
Underpins everything.
It really does. And in chapter 12, he starts, and this was so interesting to me, he starts describing
He starts to break down
different types of knights. He's like,
Yeah.
young knight,
rolled knight,
rich knight,
poor knight,
like all these different.
almost like character classes, right?
It's like D&D.
It is like a medieval RPG.
Yeah.
He's acknowledging that, within the Order of Knighthood, there's diversity.
Yep.
And being a knight, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind
Right.
of thing.
And what I thought was really interesting is
Please.
he doesn't just like list them out. He's like, young knight, old knight.
Right.
He tells you how
He explains how each type
they should behave.
act, what they should be,
Yes.
what their focus should be.
Exactly. Emphasizing that single ethical code, while essential,
Needs to be applied differently
depending on.
based on your circumstances
Yeah.
and your experience.
So a young knight, just starting out, fresh out of training,
Yeah, fresh out of training.
is going to have different
Different challenges,
ethical considerations
different responsibilities.
than, let's say, a seasoned knight who's been,
Led men into battle, who's
did it
seen,
all,
the horrors of war,
and they're done that.
made difficult decisions.
Exactly. It's almost like if you were to compare
I was just thinking, it's like,
a brand new doctor
resident doctor, fresh out of med school,
compared
to
to
a
the,
seasoned surgeon.
who's been doing it for 30 years.
Oh,
Their
yes.
responsibilities.
Huge difference in the weight of their decisions.
And even though they both,
They're operating under the same
they took the same oath,
overarching medical ethics.
but their application of that
But how that plays out in the real world is going to be very different.
is totally different. And I think it's so interesting how that,
It's such a great parallel across so many fields.
oh yeah,
Right.
it makes me think about, even within the military, you've got people who are
New recruits versus,
seasoned veterans.
special forces.
Yeah, and their experience
It
really
shapes how they approach things.
shapes how they apply
Absolutely.
their ethical code.
And the weight of their decisions.
It's not just about like,
It's recognizing that navigating the complexities of any
of life.
profession
Yeah.
requires more than just rote adherence
To the rule.
to a set of rules.
It's about judgment.
Wisdom, your experience.
Wisdom, nuanced understanding of context.
Yeah, yeah.
All of these things are essential.
I feel like this whole conversation is reminding me of
Reminds me of
of
all the
I mean,
different,
all the different orders of chivalry throughout history, right?
yeah, like you've got
You've got the Templars,
the Templar Knights who are,
known for their discipline,
they were like the
military prowess.
warrior monks.
Absolutely.
And then you have
Then you had the Hospitallers,
the Hospitaller Knights who were focused on,
caring for the sick and wounded.
Yeah.
Very much focused on
so different,
service to others.
yeah. And then you have
The Order of the Garter,
the Order of the Garter,
which is
closely tied to the English monarchy,
very elite.
emphasizing chivalry and service to the crown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Each of those orders had their own,
Unique roles.
and codes of conduct, right?
Much like Lowell's categories.
Yeah, it's like he's looking at all these different orders and saying, well, how can we take the best of all of them
Yeah.
and create this one
And synthesize it into
Felhember ideal?
this one ideal.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
It really is. It makes you wonder.
Makes you wonder,
There's specialization.
make the ideal of knighthood stronger or weaker?
That's a great question.
I don't know. What do you think?
Is it better to have a unified code that everyone follows
To the letter.
to the letter? Or does allowing for some flexibility,
Like
different areas of focus,
Yeah.
actually enhance the overall concept.
Yeah.
It's kind of like asking,
Is it better to have
is a diverse ecosystem
more resilient?
more resilient than a monoculture?
Yeah, it's like,
Right.
on the one hand, if everybody's doing their own thing, it's like,
Yeah, specialization allows for greater efficiency, expertise in certain areas.
but if there's no
But
unified,
then again, a unified code can provide
that core ethical
a
custom,
strong sense of identity and purpose.
like we're all in this together.
Exactly.
So maybe it's a little bit of both.
I think you're right.
I think so too. You need that solid foundation,
That foundation of ethical code.
but then you allow for individual expression.
Individual expression and specialization within that framework.
Yes, I like that.
That's a good way to put it.
So no matter what type of knight you are, right? When you get to chapter 13, it's like
He lays down the law. It's very clear.
he gets very specific
Yes.
about the ethical code
It's like,
everyone must follow.
here are the rules.
This is it. This is the rule book
Like, this is not optional.
for knightly behavior.
Yeah, this is
This is the code.
the core.
And it's not just these vague things
Oh,
about
you just,
be honorable,
be a good guy.
be a good person. Yeah, he outlines concrete
He outlines specific actions
and behaviors.
that a knight must embody.
So it's not just talking the talk.
It's walking the wall.
It's doing the thing yet. So for example,
For example,
a knight,
must always speak the truth.
always. That's a big one.
Big one, defend the helpless.
Absolutely.
Remain absolutely loyal
To their lord.
to their Lord. That's a tough one
Yeah, that's a little harder.
for us today.
Yeah, a little harder.
But,
In that time, I mean, super important.
crucial.
And he even gets into these
Practical matters.
practical matters.
He advises against excessive drinking. Oh, yeah. Stresses the importance of self-control.
Interesting, because knights were known for,
Well, there's that image of the
party.
schmousing. Yeah.
But Lull's like, no, no, no.
Temperance is key.
That's not what it's about.
It's not about that. And I
Yeah.
think what's so striking is how practical,
And down to earth.
down to earth this code is,
Always.
It's about integrating those ethical principles
Yeah.
into everyday actions,
Not just like,
not just grand gestures of heroism.
right. That's the small things.
It's about how you live your life every single day.
And it makes you wonder.
It really does. Could we live by this code today?
Could I live by this code today?
Right.
I don't know. I mean,
I think some aspects are easier than others, right?
like honesty? Yeah, I feel like that's
Honesty, standing up for what's right.
standing up for what's right. That's pretty.
This seemed pretty straightforward.
But then some of the other things.
Unwavering loyalty to Lord.
Yeah, how do you even
What does that even mean?
translate that?
In today's world, right?
Yeah.
Like, who's your Lord?
Yeah, that's a good question.
It's something to think about.
And I think that's one of the things that I really appreciated about these chapters is that
It really gets you thinking
it makes you think,
about how these
how does this apply
ancient principles might apply to our
to our life?
contemporary lives.
Yeah, it's not just this.
It's not just a historical document.
It's not just a museum piece.
It's something that we can actually learn from
Yeah, there's real wisdom.
and apply to our own lives.
Yeah, and one of the things that I found really striking as I was reading this was just how passionate
Oh, he's so passionate.
Lull is about this. It's like he's not just
explaining the code.
it's not just like, here's the code.
He's pleading
There's
with,
scenes with
please
uh,
uphold it.
do this. This is important.
It's like he's saying, this is the heart of it. This is what makes it meaningful.
Yeah, and he uses these really powerful affirmations throughout.
Affirmations, yeah.
Like he's known for them.
It's so interesting. It's like he's saying, look, this isn't just some
Side quest.
optional side quest. This is like,
This is the main quest.
this is central.
This is the heart of knighthood.
This is what makes it
This is what gives it meaning.
truly meaningful. Yeah.
And those affirmations are more than just stylistic flourishes.
I think so too.
It reflects his deep belief in the power of knighthood
Oh, yeah.
to transform individuals
To transform society.
and ultimately society as a whole.
That's a big claim.
It is a big claim, but I think he really believed it.
I think so too.
It's almost like he's saying, if you get this right,
If you really embody this,
if you truly embody this ethical code,
you can make the world a better place.
you can make the world a better place. You can have a positive impact.
It's a powerful concept.
It's a powerful concept. It's something that I think a lot of people
It's a very idealistic vision.
throughout history it makes you wonder,
Have really resonated with
can one person's ethical code
does it really matter?
Really make that much of a difference?
In the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
It's a question that has echoed through the ages, right?
it really has.
Does individual integrity truly matter in a world often driven by power
And greed
and self-interest?
Yeah.
It's something that I think each of us
has to grapple with.
must grapple with.
Yeah. But before we go too far down that
Rabbit hole.
philosophical rabbit hole,
I think it's worth looking at some specific examples
let's get into the text.
from the text that illustrates
Yeah, where does he actually say this?
how he connects.
Give me the receipts.
Give me the receipts. Exactly.
Okay.
Let's do it. One passage that really stood out to me is in chapter 13 when he's talking about the knight's duty to defend the weak.
Yeah.
He doesn't just say it once,
Oh.
he repeats it
He's very emphatic.
multiple times.
And, like, get this through your head.
Using really strong language, like,
Oh, give me an example. What does he say?
it is a grave sin for a knight to fail to defend those who cannot defend themselves.
Well, he's not messing around.
He's not messing around.
It's not a suggestion.
This is central to
This is the core.
the ethical code.
And it's interesting because it makes me think
Makes you think of
like the classic image
damsel in distress,
of a knight
knight in shining armor, rescuing.
rescuing the damsel.
But it's so much
Thinker than that.
broader than that.
Yeah, he's talking
Like
about...
talking about standing up for anyone who's oppressed,
Yeah.
anyone who's being taken advantage of,
who can
who doesn't have a voice,
stand up for themselves.
using your power
Your privilege
and influence to right wrongs,
to protect the vulnerable.
to protect those who can't protect themselves.
It's about social justice.
Yeah,
It's about
it really is.
fighting for
Fighting for fairness.
equality.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And it's not just about, I feel like sometimes we romanticize
Romanticize the idea
of knighthood,
of chivalry. Right.
but he's really grounding it.
He's grounding it in this
real
truth.
world. And I think it's important to remember that in Lull's time,
Yeah.
knights often acted as judges
Oh, interesting.
or arbiters in local disputes.
So they were really
So they were upholding the law.
part of the justice system.
Their word carried a lot of weight.
Wow.
So their commitment to justice was paramount.
So it's like he's saying, if you're going to have this power,
If you're going to wear the sword,
you better use it responsibly.
you better use it responsibly.
You can't just be like a big bully
Right.
with a sword.
It's not about brute force.
Yeah.
It's about using that force in the service of something greater.
Yeah, you have to be a force for good.
A force for good in the world.
Yeah, and I think that idea of like responsible leadership,
I think that resonates even today.
it really does.
Right. We hold people in positions of power, whether they're
Police officers, judges,
elected officials,
elected officials,
to
CEOs.
be a higher standard.
We expect more from ethically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because their actions have
The ripple effect
a much greater
of
impact
the sides.
on everyone.
So their integrity
Their ethical code.
is crucial.
It's so important. And it's not just about
It's not just about,
blindly
following
following.
the rules.
It's about understanding the why.
the why behind the rules.
Why is it so important for a knight to be truthful?
Right.
Why do they have to be dedicated
Just
to justice?
so important.
Because
That impacts other people.
their actions have consequences.
Yeah.
It's recognizing that a knight's ethical code
Yeah.
isn't just a private matter.
Right.
It has a direct impact on the community,
On the world around them.
on the fabric of society.
Yeah, on society as a whole.
Absolutely.
One other thing I wanted to touch on that I thought was really interesting in these chapters was
Yeah.
his emphasis on faith. Oh, yes.
He talks about the knight's duty to defend the faith
This was a big one for Lowell.
and to
He was a very devout man.
live a life
I think
that
it was central
reflects their religious beliefs.
to his worldview.
And we should acknowledge, I think, the historical context here.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's writing in a time when,
Religion was dominant
religion was very important
in society.
and knighthood was,
It often intertwined with
like the Crusades.
religious wars and crusades.
So we're not trying to,
We're not endorsing any particular agenda here.
endorse any particular religion.
But it's interesting
But I think it's interesting to see how he
to see how he connects it
connects faith
to the ethical code.
to the ethical code. Yeah. It's not just about
It's not just about dogma.
blindly following
It's about integrating
his beliefs
into your actions
It's about how you live your life.
and how you interact with the world.
Yeah, and I think that's
I think that idea of ethical consistency
it's like actions speak louder than words.
is key throughout the book.
He's basically saying
He's saying you have to align your actions with your beliefs.
a true knight isn't just someone who talks about it.
It's about living a life of integrity,
They live it.
where your words and
They
deeds
embody those values.
are in harmony.
And that's a powerful message,
I think so.
even for us today.
Even for those of us who don't live in a world of castles and crusades.
It's a really good point. It's about,
Whatever our ethical code may be,
yeah,
it should inform our actions
absolutely.
and our relationships with others.
It's about striving to be consistent.
It's about walking the walk,
Yeah.
not just talking the talk.
And, as we're talking about all this, it makes me think back to those different
Different orders.
orders of chivalry
Yes.
that we were talking about.
The Templars, the Hospitallers.
It's like each one represents a different,
facet
like a facet
of Lull's ideal knight.
of this ideal knight.
Right.
You've got the Templars with their
Focus on discipline.
military spirit,
Warrior spirit.
unwavering dedication to the cause.
Right.
And then you have the Hospitallers,
Who embodies
who are all about compassion,
compassion.
care for the sick and wounded,
Yeah.
exemplifying that duty to protect the vulnerable.
It's so interesting because it's that
The duality.
duality of strength.
Strength and compassion.
Strength and compassion.
I think that's what makes knighthood so compelling.
Even today.
Even centuries later.
It's not just about,
It's not just about brute force.
yeah,
It's about using that force
in the service of something
in the service of something greater
bigger than yourself.
than yourself.
And it's not about
It's not about being perfect.
achieving perfection.
It's about that striving,
Yeah.
the continual effort
To be better.
to embody those virtues
Yeah.
in a world
In a very imperfect world.
that often challenges them.
Which brings us back to Lull's challenge.
Hmm.
Right. The big question. Are we living up
In our modern lives,
to even a fraction
to any of this.
of that ethical code?
I mean, it's easy to sit here and
Easy to admire knights from a distance.
romanticize it.
Romanticize chivalry.
But are we actually
But are we actually putting those principles into practice
living it?
in our daily lives?
That's the question. Yeah, it's like he's holding up this mirror
to us, you.
to us and saying, look in the mirror.
Who are you?
Are you living this? What kind of knight are you?
Exactly.
And that's what makes this book so relevant, even today.
It's timeless.
It really is. It's not just a historical curiosity.
It's a guide to ethical living
It's a blueprint.
for building character.
Yeah, and striving for something
Something greater
bigger than yourself.
than yourself.
And we might not wear armor
We might not ride horses into battle.
and ride horses into battle,
Ah,
but those core principles,
courage, integrity, compassion,
service to others, those are universal.
those are timeless.
They transcend.
They transcend time and place.
Absolutely. I mean, think about first responders
People who are on the front lines.
who rush into danger
Yeah, every day.
to save lives,
Yeah, think about activists who are fighting for
fighting for justice,
social justice.
equality.
Think about the everyday people
Yeah, the people who are just,
who go out of their way to help a neighbor in need.
those are all expressions of the knightly spirit, aren't they?
I think so.
In a way, yeah.
It's about
It's like he's saying, we need knights,
we need knights.
maybe now more than ever.
Now more than ever.
And you don't have to have a title
You don't need a fancy coat of arms.
or a coat of arms. It's about
It's about what you do.
what you choose to do, how you choose to act.
It's about making that conscious choice
Yeah,
to embody those virtues,
living a life
to live a life guided by an ethical code,
guided by your principles,
even when it's hard,
even when it's hard.
even when no one's watching.
No one's giving you a medal.
That's the true test
That's the true test, yeah.
of character.
When we started this deep dive, I thought
What did you think?
this is going to be kind of a dry, dusty old medieval text.
Yeah.
But I was so wrong.
Lull's passion just leaps off the page.
It really does. It's infectious.
It is. It's inspiring.
And I've learned so
You
much
too.
about what knighthood really means.
It's not just about sword fighting and chivalry.
It's about so much more.
It's about living a life
It's about living a life of purpose,
of purpose.
integrity,
Service.
service to others,
Making a positive impact,
making a difference,
however small.
however small.
And I think that's a really beautiful message.
I think that's the most important takeaway
It really is.
from Lull
We can all be knights
in our own way.
in our own way. Yeah,
We can all be champions of good
absolutely.
forces for positive change.
It's a challenge.
It is a challenge.
And it's also really inspiring.
It is. It's been an amazing journey so far.
Exploring these chapters
Exploring this book with you.
with you. It's been a pleasure.
I can't wait to see what other treasures Lull has in store for us.
I'm excited for the next deep dive.
Me too. And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll be back soon.
We'll be back soon to explore more of Lull's work.
Until then,
Until then, be well.
And keep those knightly virtues.
Keep those knightly virtues close to your heart.